Hey there. Welcome to PhD Weekly, where I reflect on my past week in grad school, sharing a lesson or idea that I'm trying to implement. Welcome to episode 4, where I am sharing how to not flunk out of grad school, a quick how to. But first, feelings update. Feeling very determined. I have 2 exams as well as a lab presentation in the same week, so that's definitely lit a fire under my butt to just keep going, stay consistent, continue to really study, and continue to just stay prepared, be ahead, be proactive. And so when it comes to not flunking out of grad school, I know really, at least for a PhD, your first year or two, it's all about making sure you're passing your classes, making sure you're doing great in your exams, and really learning all this information and skill sets so you can then pass your qualifying exam. And once you pass that, that's really when you enter your first step. It's all this time being built, all this pressure being built for 2 years, so that you can then have the skill sets to really think like a scientist and then lead a project on your own during your PhD degree, right? But first, you have to really develop the technical skill sets and the technical thinking, the concepts, knowledge, and ideas. And so that's all coming from the courses. And so I'm not just learning to really just pass the classes. I'm also trying to really learn to make sure I understand the material, especially since I come from a computer science background. A lot of these terminologies and ideas are new to me. So I'm going to share with you how I go about really learning so I don't flunk out of grad school before, it even starts, right? So learning really has 3 key phases, and I call them really taste, test, and experiment. Phase 1 is taste, learning what to actually do. This is when you learn the rules. This is when you learn the mechanisms for whatever you're learning. And so I've been using the Zettelkasten system. I recently came upon it, as well as Obsidian. I've also been using AI and just different lectures from like lecture slides from my various courses, all to really review, learn the different rules, mechanisms, and actually like learn what to do, right? Learn what the actual idea or concept is. Then it goes to phase 2. And this is what I call tests. It's learning how to do it, learning how to do the actual thing. And so this is when you're actually practicing and learning how to apply the theory or idea that you learned. With biology, it's a little tougher because a lot of it is like just thinking through theories, or like other sciences can also be like thinking through theories. But I found a great way to go about testing when it comes to learning how to do, I guess in this case, the research, the biomedical research, is group studying. I found it really great where met up with a group of my friends from school, and we met up and we each went through the lecture slides together. And once we came across a topic, whoever had a strong understanding of that topic, we try to jump up and either draw it out on the whiteboard or give a 30-second speech of our understanding of that concept. And so the goal was that other people could go ahead and then try to like find gaps in our knowledge and build those gaps so that we can each learn from each other. So I found that to be really useful in terms of testing, learning how to do the thing by doing a quick and dirty sketch of whatever idea I'm trying to think through or a mechanism that I'm trying to work through. Can I draw it on the whiteboard, or can I explain it to someone in 30 seconds or less? That's a really great way to just test what you know and other parts that are a little squishy or you just don't know. Plus, it helps when you have other people that can then help fill in those gaps. Very helpful. I find that's how I've probably learned best so far. And then actually with testing this phase 2, I've also been utilizing, or I've been looking into hiring a tutor actually to go ahead and eventually coach me and mentor me in reading papers. I realize I still suck at reading research papers. I'll come away learning new terms or learning, yeah, just new terms, new words and such. But I still don't come away feeling like, okay, I understood the main ideas, the main goals of this paper, at least not consistently. And so my goal is to hire a tutor to also continue to both taste, right? Learning what to do when I'm reading through a paper, but also phase 2 testing, learning how to go through reading a paper and eventually being critical of the paper that I read. Then is phase 3. experiment, doing it, performing it, going out and giving it your all. There's a difference between just like practicing versus actually doing the thing. And so when it comes to the performance, at least in academia, the only real thing I can think of is either an exam or a PowerPoint presentation, something to that degree, maybe even writing, where you have to go through you have 2 hours. It's just tested on you either know it or you don't. And that's it. And so I know for the actual performance of it, at least for exams, AI definitely helps with, you can give it a bunch of inputs that you're currently studying, and then you can go ahead and have it quiz you. Go take a 20-question exam on the topics you're learning. Have different AI models go ahead and generate an exam for you. Practice. I've also found Quizlet to be helpful. You can go on Quizlet and they have multiple choice exams you can take, or even free response that you can utilize. Those are really useful as well. But you have to also practice the actual performance itself. So learning really has those three key phases. Phase one, where you taste, learning what to do. Phase two is the test, learning how to do the thing. And then phase three, where you experiment, you actually perform, you do it. And the reason I call phase three experimenting is because even once you sort of master the material, or once you master the material, it still has this weird evolution to it. You would think once you know something, that's it. It just stays the same. But you're a person who's also forever changing. And so when you learn one thing, that changes how you learn another thing. And that thing changes how you learn and do another thing. And so it's always forever changing and evolving. Today, the person you are right now is not the same person you will be tomorrow or in a year from now or in 5 years from now. Just like the you right now is not the same person you were a year ago. You're constantly changing, forever evolving, forever transforming. And so that's why I say experiment, because the methods and tools you like to use now, you might like now, but in 5 years, you might hate it. You're going to find a completely different system, but you learn the meta knowledge behind the topic you're learning, right? So just like you can learn how to do something, but then there's 5 different ways to do the same thing. But you learn all the different steps you need to at least have a solid foundation on, but then it doesn't matter what tool you decide to use. And so that's really the three key phases I use for learning. And that's how I've been really hitting hard this last week in terms of studying, so I don't flunk out of grad school, so I can do good on my coming up exams and on my presentation. Just be ready. And so a highlight for this week has really been when I decided to go do a group study session. I didn't think too much of it. I was like, cool, we're going to go ahead and study. But I realized, I think in past group study sessions, I'll usually sit there and either study with a group and just, it's more of an accountability group, or just riffraff, really just like talk for the hour, hour and a half, and not really get any work done. And so I actually found with this past group study session, it was really helpful to, all right, we're going to learn about signal recognition proteins. Cool. Who knows this? Okay, we're going to learn about import export systems for different organelles. Who knows that? And being able to draw it out and being able to like just talk about it in a full conversation from beginning to end for that idea, very, very helpful, instead of trying to like force myself to go through the lecture slides or force myself to read a textbook or whatnot. At least when it's very technical, I found having someone else explain it to me in a much simpler way where I can just first understand the key ideas has been way more helpful, because then I can go ahead and like practice it more. But I have to first get like the seed, then I can go ahead and water it, and then it can blossom. But I realized trying to force myself with slides and whatnot, just it didn't even give me a chance to learn the initial material in the first place. So yeah, highlight for me was learning that I do really well with group studying and having other people explain it to me, or even me practicing how to explain import and export systems for different organelles to other people. That was very helpful for me to recall, but also make sure that I understood the material, you know? And so And that was really a cool highlight. And it's always great to connect with other people and get to just make new friends, make new memories, right? Then a stressor, really just exams coming up next week and presentation. That's just really been a big stressor. I want to make sure I'm as prepared as I can be for when I do take the exam, because I feel like you study so much and then it's like you don't know how the exam actually turns out. It depends on every professor, how they like to ask questions. So it's really going to depend on this professor, how they anticipate asking their questions. How do they word their questions? I've gotten into light debates with different professors of I really don't like the way they word something, they word a question, and it just to me it completely throws the question in a completely different way than if they would have just reworded it to something maybe a little simpler or a little more straightforward. And so yeah, it really just depends on the professor. Anyway, so that's really how I'm learning not to flunk out of grad school. Just make sure you're prioritizing your grades, making sure you're doing good on your exams, because exams cover most of your course grade for most of the courses I'm taking. So, and then the idea being in a year or in 2 years, once I pass my qualifying exams, because I've been consistent for so long, both learning the actual material and actually understanding it, not just for an exam, but then also, secondly, getting comfortable with papers and getting comfortable with the research terms and mechanisms and such. When qualifying exams come around, I'm ready to go. I know how to actually really think like a scientist, even though I come from a non biology background, right? It's just, I know it's going to require extra work from my end to just really dig deep and keep going. So, yep, that's the lesson that I'm learning and implementing for this week. And just to recap, the three key phases to learning are to taste, test, and experiment. Learning what to do, learning how to do it, and then go perform it. Practice and perform it. That's really all there is to it. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.